Welcome to the Glow Code podcast. My name is Kate Dove and I'm your host. The Glow Code podcast is a collection of bite-sized conversations designed to help you step into your main character energy, glow up, and connect with your femininity. This podcast is for the woman who wants to radiate her beauty from the inside out and move through the world with authenticity. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode, and let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Glow Code podcast. For everyone who is tuning in from the United States, I hope you all had a great Labor Day weekend. Personally, my husband and I, we didn't go to the beach or anything like that, but we did have a successful trip to Floor & Decor because we're going to be redoing our bathroom soon, and I just absolutely love the tile that we picked out. There were so many options, and a lot of them were more modern, like sort of like that white grayish look. But the one that we found has this Mediterranean feel to it. It's like this creamy brown and it looks beautiful. And I said to my husband, like, when it is 20 degrees in January, I want to step into my bathroom and just feel like I'm in a Mediterranean villa. So that is the vibe that we're going for. And I'm just excited to get this done. If you have been involved in like any kind of home improvements, you understand the feeling. So I'm excited for that to get done in a couple of weeks. But other than that, I have been getting back into my writing mode with the next book, which is going to be a novella, and I'll be sharing more details on that soon. And I also came across a video on Instagram that just really stuck in my mind because I related to it and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. So that is going to weave into today's episode, and I'm going to tell you what that video was about. So this video was by Rebecca Ives, the content queen on Instagram, and every time I hear her say like, this is edgy or this is a hot take, I'm like all ears because I'm like, I love your hot takes. So I like stopped everything and I was like, okay, let me watch this video. And this topic was essentially around how a lot of businesses, coaching businesses specifically, that were built and founded off of the concepts and phrases of let it be easy and the universe is my sugar daddy are now crumbling, and those creators are going down different paths. And essentially Rebecca was talking about how like it's one thing to have balance, with ease and flow, and it's another thing to have a business but not want to work at all and just say affirmations like the universe is my sugar daddy, and that actually being misleading to people. So I ended up leaving a comment from my personal page and just sharing how like that actually used to be me. And now, like, I still use that phrase of the universe is my sugar daddy, but I have such a different perspective that I'm gonna share today. And I think I kept thinking about this because I poured so much time into wanting to build my business and also using like these sexy phrases and manifestation practices. And then eventually I realized like I actually don't enjoy running a coaching business. Like even if I was talking about topics that I really love, or even if I was helping people, and that part would be rewarding both for me and for them, I really didn't have that entrepreneurial side in me in the way that I was pursuing. in the form of clients, courses, classes, that sort of thing. In the future, that may change, never say never, but I know that if I do pursue it in the future, it'll only be from an aligned place. And what I noticed with the coaching industry, especially with this feminine based approach where a lot of people were twisting it and misleading others, it was kind of presented as like this holy grail where it was, become a coach and get rich quick and say these affirmations of the universe is my sugar daddy and all will be right and good in the world and you will be a wealthy woman. Of course, for someone who is in a situation where they really want to change their life, they're going to try everything. And I think that most of us have been in those positions where we're at our wits' end and we just want to change something. But when it comes to business, of course, there's so much that goes into it, and we do have to continuously work on our craft and our structures and our creativity in order to be provided for and to receive. And in a coaching business, that may be in the form of clients and students, or whatever industry you're in, you can apply this concept of who or what you are receiving from. So that is what inspired the title of this episode of The Universe is My Sugar Daddy, but are you a responsible sugar baby? When I replied to the video on Instagram, I said universal sugar baby because we're talking about energetics here. What has really been playing in my mind as I was thinking about this topic and this episode was how common the phrase was used, but how misunderstood the sugar daddy, sugar lifestyle topic is. And I've never been a sugar baby or anything like that, but I did write it into one of my romance books. And while I was doing that, this is a little bit cheesy, but I was going on Reddit and reading stories from the sugar lifestyle, both horror stories and negative experiences and the positive stories. And what I found was so fascinating because when we think of the sugar daddy archetype, we think of being protected, provided for, maybe we are receiving lavish things. And I also think there is still an unconscious idea that we have of men like that only want a woman for her looks. And I found that it went so much deeper than that. I think for a lot of people, when they think of a sugar baby, they think of a woman who only wants the money. But as I was reading these stories, I noticed a common thread where every sugar relationship that was long-term actually had a sugar baby that was either in school or trying to grow her career, or who was interested in networking through their sugar daddy and learning how to invest, learning how to present themselves in certain social functions. And I was like, wow, that is actually a lot of value to not just be a woman who is like, I need some extra help and support, but to be open to growing herself. And of course, it's the internet, and sometimes we, don't know what's true and what's not true. But when I would read the posts by men who were sugar daddies and had sugar relationships, they would always say that they wanted a woman they would be able to emotionally connect with, a woman who they could help grow and grow with, and that the women they went on dates with who were only about the money or who were entitled were actually turnoffs for them. So this was a real eye-opener for me, and it also definitely helped me to form the dynamic that I wrote about in my book. But this was so fascinating to me because I've always been very interested in the psychology of femininity and masculinity, providing, receiving, and those kinds of dynamics. So I think that also a lot of women who use or have used this phrase actually don't understand what it would mean to be on the other side of that dynamic. You may say the universe is my sugar daddy, but what are you bringing to the table? Are you bringing your wisdom? Are you bringing your craft? Are you bringing your presence? That was also another one that I noticed was these men wanted a woman who would be able to be present with them. Whether it is a man or a manifestation, if you are sitting back and taking no action, not looking at your self-awareness, not growing yourself, then you're actually not in your feminine anymore because you are being codependent on outside forces to be there for you, when actually we receive more when we recognize our own value and allowing ourselves to share our emotions and pursue what is on our heart. I also wanted to mention here that I am also really interested in this topic in general because in my romantic relationship, my husband has always been the financial provider, even when we were dating. And sometimes we joke about the sugar daddy thing because I wrote about it and he reads all the books that I write. And when he was reading this book, he was like, I love how you wrote about us, but you didn't write about us. And I was like, but you're not my sugar daddy. And he was like, but aren't I? And so I had to ask him, like, when did you feel comfortable providing for me? Because there is risk in that for a man, especially if you are just dating and you're not fully committed yet. And he said, I don't provide for you. We provide for each other. It's in different ways, but I'm not the only one who provides in this relationship. And I felt like that beautifully summed up the essence of giving and receiving, masculinity and femininity, because I think that when a lot of women come into this space of feminine energy, especially feminine-based business, they think that it doesn't require any kind of action or just sitting back and letting someone else do the heavy lifting. But our heavy lifting has to do with our identity. It has to do with our own masculine structure. And even though I'm not in a coaching business anymore, there is a lot of structure required that goes into running a business. And even if you're not running a business, no matter what you do, there is a level of commitment that we need to have in our daily life. And that commitment to ourselves and to others is what makes us open to receiving not from desperation, not from having to mislead people, but because we see our own value and we're not afraid to share that value. So going back to that phrase of the universe is my sugar daddy, personally, I do use that phrase now too, but with this new perspective, because instead of seeing myself as helpless and having no power, I'm seeing this as a collaborative effort. The universe can work behind the scenes, but I also need to work with the gifts that I have been given, the talents that I have, because sometimes I think when we talk about being of service, sometimes it can come with this energy of obligation if we have some scarcity beliefs to work through. But when we are truly of service, it is through our authenticity, is through the work that we do on ourselves, working to understand ourselves, both the happy, joyful, light side of us and also the deep, dark side of us. And that was also something that I had noticed in the stories I was reading, was that these relationships that were long lasting and not just fun had so much emotional depth. It wasn't just about these lavish gifts or lifestyle on the surface. It was also about growing together, even if it was through untraditional means. And I think that if we can approach our manifestation phrases from that point of view of like, this is just an untraditional relationship compared to a 9 to 5, for example, we can understand that our body has our back when we rewire our nervous system. The universe has our back when we are struggling and we need divine assistance and support. But we have to be willing to go there. If we only sit back and try to tell ourselves affirmations and meditate all day, it's only going to have the opposite effect, because manifestation comes from balance. It comes from stability. And when we know how to cultivate that stability in our mind and our body, then we can ebb and flow between our masculinity and our femininity. We can pursue the work that we want to pursue, or even if you are in a job right now that you don't like, in a position in life that you are not satisfied with, that's where the inner masculine comes in. And when you can see and appreciate and value your own inner power, then you have that much more appreciation for when you receive it in return. Thank you for tuning into today's episode. If this episode resonated with you, be sure to rate and review it down below. And so far, we've been doing episodes every Friday. So keep an eye out on your feed every Friday for when each new episode drops. I will see you all in the next episode.